So with Season 9 starting, I figured what a better time to start doing some self-VOD reviews and actually posting them on my YouTube channel. So while this is for my own benefit, this could also be helpful for people who are inexperienced with Moira and could show you how I currently approach playing her. So at the beginning of every game, I try to get a damage orb out on the enemy for two things. One, this will tell me earlier if they have a diva or not, and it'll give me ult charge at the beginning. On some maps it doesn't work out too well, so you can see here on attack on Hanamura it doesn't work out too well, because what ends up happening is that my Roadhog gets hooked and he almost dies, and I don't really get much benefit. Like, getting a little bit of ult charge versus being able to keep my ally alive is not very worth it. On some maps on attack you can do it because the distance to travel is much further, so the teams don't collide as soon, and because of your fade you can actually gain distance apart from your team and just quickly throw a damage orb into the enemies. On a map like Hanamura, the distance that you have to close is pretty short, especially if you have a Lucio, so I probably need to stick with my team more often rather than trying to go for the cheeky bit of ult percentage just at the beginning of the game. That is on Hanamura. So I do get 20% ult charge, but that was at the risk of my teammate dying. I throw a damage orb there just to get some ult charge. You can see that I'm playing pretty far back. I'm not like in the front line of my team. Moira's abilities have a fairly good distance. Her heal is, I believe, like about 15 meters, and her right click is about 20 meters. So you don't need to be super close. You can see here I'm being a little bit more aggressive, and the reason for that is just to get ult charge. I can see that the enemy Roadhog isn't close to the choke, so I can play a little bit more aggressive and just get some ult charge. When you're doing this, you definitely want to make sure that your fade is up, just in case the enemy team decides to push you very quickly, then you have a way to get out. So if you were to run into a situation where you have to ask yourself whether or not you should be healing or dealing damage, most of the time the answer will be healing. You have a lot more positive impact within a game by healing people rather than dealing damage, just because your damage is pretty mediocre. So this is why you see me healing majority of the time rather than trying to deal damage. I already have my ultimate, so you'll see that I'm holding on to my damage orb. You can see that I'm not spamming it as much as I was before, and the reason for this is because if you use damage orb constantly on the enemy team when you already have your ultimate, you don't actually gain any sort of benefit. Like, all you're doing is you're charging the enemy team support ults, because pretty much any support that does any sort of healing, or not even a support, any character that heals will gain ult charge from it. And your damage orb doesn't do enough significant damage in order to actually have impact before a fight happens. So you use it during a fight or to pick someone off if you have your ultimate already. If you're deciding between using a healing orb or a damage orb, like you have two scenarios where they're both good, you probably want to use your healing orb for the sole reason that the healing orb won't charge the enemy ultimates in any shape or fashion, whereas the damage orb will, because especially if you're throwing it into a cluster of enemies, you won't be dealing a significant amount of damage to anybody to bring them low enough for a pick or for anyone to really capitalize on. Throughout the game, you should hopefully see me hold on to my damage orb when I have my ultimate, simply because it charges the enemy's ultimate and it doesn't actually positively impact the game for my team or for myself. I don't think that healing orb was really necessary. This is bad. The way that I'm positioned now, I'm very far back from my team, which isn't too big of a deal when I'm using my ultimate because my ultimate has a really long range. But the problem with my team being split up is that it's hard to keep everyone alive. And it isn't, while you are a healer, it isn't necessarily your job to like go around the entire map and keep everyone alive, as it's way too difficult to do that as any healer really. Mercy's probably the best healer at doing that, maybe Anna. But as Moira, you need to be within like close to medium distance in order to heal people. So if anyone gets low, then it's going to be really awkward. Oh yeah, and this is where I die here. So this is a really good example of what I mean by if you use your fade aggressively, then you won't have any way to escape. So there are two issues with the way that I am positioned here. One, I am not close to teammates, so I don't have the ability to really heal anyone right now. My Roadhog is on the right and the rest of my team is on the left, and I'm just center in the middle. So I can't can't really do anything right now. I'm also too far from enemies, so I'm actually just useless in the position that I'm currently in. I can't heal or deal damage. I pretty much just can't do anything. Even though I have my fade, whether I choose to go to the left or to the right, it brings up the issue of me not having fade. So if I'm pushed on aggressively, then I won't be able to escape and I will just die. So this is a positioning issue rather than an ability usage issue. I could have walked to Roadhog, honestly, rather than using fade, because he wasn't in any immediate danger, so I could have dropped down to Roadhog and just walked to him instead of using fade, which would have probably been better. If he was in immediate danger and he was dueling somebody, it probably would have been good to fade just to keep him alive. But seeing that he's at full HP and he's not really in any danger, there's no reason to actually fade here, other than to keep myself hidden from the Widowmaker. But ultimately, this stems down from poor positioning. If I was positioned properly, I would have never needed to use fade in the first place to avoid the Widowmaker or get closer to the Roadhog, and that would have allowed me to heal my teammates, so be more proactive and helpful in the fight, as well as give myself an option to either heal someone that's in immediate danger or give myself a way out with my fade. And usually when I'm up against a Tracer, I like to use healing orb, so as soon as I know that she's going aggressive on me, I'll chuck a healing orb in a small room so that it bounces back and forth. You'll probably see me use my orbs in a way where they constantly bounce back in the place that I desire, and that is very, very important. But I will try and use it in a small room because it becomes very difficult for Tracer to actually kill you if you 80-80 crouch spam, as well as heal from your biotic orb and right clicker. It's very, very difficult for her. There's a chance you'll start see me using my damage orb again, and I like to use it before a team fight starts, really. Like, before we actually get into this dance where we're about to start a fight. If you can use it before, then it's fine, because then you can gain a little bit of ult charge and hopefully have your ultimate up for when the fight actually starts. The only time I don't really do it is if they have a diva, and if diva's close by, then she'll just eat it, and you just end up wasting your cooldown. I ended up backing out here because I actually took a right click from Roadhog, which brought me to low HP, and I didn't want to die to the Moira orb. So getting hit by the Roadhog hook was a bit of a mistake and could have potentially lost us the push here, because that made me stop healing my Roadhog and my Tracer. May have still ended up dying there, actually. So when the Widow shoots, I spot her at the back, and I use the pillar on the point in order to block line of sight of her. So you can see that I move over, and that prevents me from being shot by Widow any further, and I just try to play around here. After our Widow kills her, then it allows me to be more free in the sense that I can position more in the open rather than having to play around this pillar, because Widow could potentially be watching me. Now that she's dead, I can play more around the other enemies rather than having to just hide from Widow alone, because she can easily one-shot me, whereas the other characters on the other team aren't as much of an immediate threat, in the sense that if they see me, then I'm dead because I have fade. So you can see me sort of like weaving in my attacks as well as healing. I prioritize healing the Roadhog because Roadhog is fairly low, and I prioritize healing rather than dealing damage. The ultimate is a lot more effective that way. We did win the round there, but that looked kind of awkward actually. Behind from the Widow was really good, using the pillar for cover. That orb wasn't too good. That biotic orb that I used was not very good. There's no need to use it here. Roadhog is missing HP, but it's not like he's desperate for HP, and he's being healed by my Mercy anyways. So it's a little bit of a waste. I think my ultimate here was fine. That orb was also really bad because I threw it into Diva and I just blow the cooldown, so that was also pretty poor. No, that doesn't look too bad. I thought we were going to lose the fight. I didn't think we were in a position to win the fight anymore. I probably could have stayed in a little bit more because I do have Fade still, and I could potentially get out, but generally on 2 CP, if you're down numbers, then you will lose the fight more often than not from my experience, because their spawn is so much closer than yours. So if you're attacking on a 2 CP map and you're on the second point, if you're trading 1-for-1 constantly, you generally lose the fight because the enemy spawn is so much closer than yours. Whereas for them, trading 1-for-1 is really good because, again, the spawns are so close. So when you're on defense on 2 CP, if you can trade 1-for-1, that's good. It's not necessarily the best. If you can get more than one pick, then by all means go for it. But if you end up trading 1-for-1, that's okay. And if you're on attack and you're trading 1-for-1 on a 2 CP map, that is very bad. You need to be able to maintain numbers when you're attacking the second point of a 2 CP map, because you need to be able to stabilize your advantage. So if you're constantly trading 1-for-1, then you're not going to be able to gain an advantage simply because the enemy team's spawns are so much closer, and by time that your team comes back, the enemy team will have already grouped up all 6 and stabilized, whereas your team would be like flowing in one by one. So you can see here on attack, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to use a Discord orb right at the beginning of the game. On defense, this is generally safer to do. I don't know any map in particular where you can't really do this. Maybe on Lunar Colony, just because it's a bit hard to get back to your team in time. Although you can make it work by throwing the damage orb early before the round actually starts. So you're going to see me do it here. I throw a damage orb early just for ultimate charge. It's generally pretty safe to do and very, very low risk. So you can see at the beginning of the game, I've already gained 9% ult charge from just throwing my orb. You can see me playing around this corner. This corner, the distance is just about in reach of my healing if my teammates decide to play aggressive, and it allows me to use my right click. So if I decide to want to deal damage to people, then I can use it from here in the event that they're pushing through the choke. If they're playing very far away from the choke, then I won't be able to hit them. So my torp is being jumped on, so I'm just going to heal him. I'm prioritizing healing rather than dealing damage, and if my teammates do not need healing, I'll weave in dealing damage, but you'll see that I am prioritizing healing for the most part. The reason for this is because Moira actually deals a mediocre amount of damage. She doesn't actually deal that much. She can sap people, but she won't deal like a bunch of damage. She will kill people by healing herself and maintaining and sustaining herself while dealing damage, but the damage itself isn't actually that much. Whereas her healing can have much more of a significant impact just because she heals so much more. So for the most part, I'll be prioritizing healing rather than dealing damage. Here I am sort of trying to play around the point, and the reason for this is I don't want them to get a tick, but I could have easily just told my team, hey, they're on point, and had someone else come with me to get on point, because it's very hard for me to actually have a significant impact to like get them off the point or actually kill them. So I probably need to call my teammates here to come onto the point. Either that or I let them get a tick and I continue healing my teammates so they don't actually die. As you can see in the top right, the kill feed, I've actually let my Orisa die because I've been playing on the point versus actually healing people. Oh, this was actually when the voice chat was bugging out. I remember now. So sometimes voice chat doesn't seem to work in this patch. This is why I couldn't actually call out to teammates. I was kind of wondering why I wasn't actually talking whatsoever this game. Maybe a bit of an early ultimate on my part. I was assuming that they were going to push in here, and that would have been good for me to angle myself so that I could heal my Moira as well as deal damage to them at the same time. A little bit of a preemptive ultimate. Pretty poor ultimate, honestly. A bit, like a good half of it wasn't actually used effectively. We're going to lose the fight here, but I'll just let this play out. Again, that was a really bad biotic orb. There's no reason for me to use my orb there, because Winston is full HP. This is a good example of what not to do. I already have my ultimate and I use my damage orb, and I actually won't benefit from it whatsoever, and I'm just charging the enemy team's ultimate. It's okay to use it during a fight because you're providing supporting damage, which could actually be effective, but before you actually get into the thick of the fight, it's pretty bad to use like that. We can see I'm positioned in the back, just trying to keep everyone alive. Prioritize healing. It's okay that Winston was on me. I'm not going to focus Winston. I'm going to try and focus on healing. I got hooked there. I should have faded as soon as I saw the Roadhog coming towards me. So the whole goal for me right now is to try and heal everyone and keep them on the point so that we can stabilize. And what I mean by stabilize is because our spawn is so much closer. Again, do you remember the 1-for-1 trades? We're on defense now, so if we can get a 1-for-1 trade, that is very, very good. It's a little bit awkward whether or not I should be with the soldier. It's actually probably better to be with the soldier because then I'm at least not on my own, and it makes it less awkward for me to jump to him in order to heal him. So I probably should have been with the soldier. Being with teammates is so much better than being off by yourself as Moira, because you can only really do stuff close to medium ranges. So in a previous example that we showed, when I used my Fade aggressively to get closer to teammates, I didn't have anything to actually get away with. So it's probably better if I stood with the soldier rather than staying on the high ground by myself. Here, focusing on sustain, focus on sustain, focus on sustain. I think I'm worrying too much about the point. The point is very important, don't get me wrong, but I'm removing myself from the fight in order to stay on the point, whereas you actually have a little bit of time before you really need to go to the point. So I should probably stick with my team a little bit longer. I'm very, very cautious of them capping, so rather than just going to it immediately, I should probably wait a little bit, because it's a lot easier for other teammates to actually get the people on the point rather than having me on the point, because all I can really do is stall, which is by no means bad, but at the same time I'm not really doing anything to positively impact the fight. I could be healing teammates to make sure that they're not dying, and if they decide not to go to the point, I can then jump to the point if necessary. One thing I like to do is I use Biotic Orb and then use my ultimate if I don't need to use my ultimate right away. Like, if I'm like, oh, okay, this is a good time to ultimate and I don't need to like use it the second when that pops into my head, I like that I use my Biotic Orb first, because the cooldowns are somewhat similar. By using Biotic Orb before you ultimate, it actually makes your Biotic Orb usage a lot more efficient, in the sense that if you don't use your Biotic Orb when you ultimate, you pretty much waste a cooldown, because the cooldowns are so similar, and you can't use your Biotic Orb anyways when you're using your ultimate. So you might as well use it before you use your ultimate. So I really need sustain, and the way I sustain as Moira is I need to heal myself through either Biotic Orb or through my right clicks, and I'm at 67 HP. So you can see that I throw my Biotic Orb at this wall here, and the reason for that is because it'll bounce back and forth and stay in an area where it'll constantly heal my teammates as well as myself. If you just throw it randomly, it goes wherever, and it doesn't stay in the spot that you'd like it to. When you're healing people, it'll slow down, but as soon as it leaves a target and doesn't have anyone else to heal, it speeds up and it'll just run away. So even if it does speed up in this area, then it's fine, because it's still within the area I'd like to heal people in. So you'll see it bounce back and forth here. This is why small corridors are generally good for Moira in small rooms, because you can bounce the orb back and forth and have it be effective the entire time, rather than just having it be effective for a little bit and then having it fly away. I should be healing my diva here rather than dealing damage. Like, my diva's half HP right now. I shouldn't be dealing damage to a full HP Lucio. I'm not going to be able to kill him or do anything. I should be healing instead. I'd be so much more effective that way. Again, that was a bit of a bad orb. It at least bounces back, which is really good, but it did not seem like it was going to do that. So the orb actually wasn't that bad because it stays within the area and it got fully used, but I didn't think it was actually going to bounce off when I was looking at it just now. So if I was to look at this game based off of what we reviewed, I would probably say that there's 3 things that I need to work on. My positioning, my biotic orb usage, as well as my game sense, in the sense that I need to be able to know when to heal versus when to deal damage. And I need to be sure to constantly keep track of my allies' HP, because sometimes I end up missing out on opportunities to heal them and it causes them to die. So generally I would try and pick the most important thing first. That way overall you're more effective as a player, so you kind of improve faster if you work on the more important things first. So I'd probably work on my positioning first, because without good positioning I can't be effective, and if I'm not positioned properly, then it doesn't really matter whether or not I use my orbs properly, and I can't really be in a position to keep track of health bars of my allies or trying to keep track of the enemy's HP to know if I can finish them off, because I'm not in position, so I won't be able to actually heal or deal damage to anybody. So for the next couple of games that I play, I'll be focusing on my positioning, making sure that I'm close enough to teammates and I'm always with my team, that way I'm able to heal them. Of course, things will be different from character to character, but as Moira, I need to be close to mid-range in order to heal my allies, so I need to always be sure that I'm in position in order to do so. So if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you'd like to get in discussion with me to possibly do one of your VODs, you can join my Discord. The link will be in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.